The battle between consoles has really just entered such a unique phase of gaming in general. Like when you consider it, the fact that previously in the past, of course, we've had a bunch of Nintendo versus Microsoft versus Sony discussions, but right now we're in a spot where things have just been revolutionized with the acquisition of gigantic, almost $100 billion value studios like Activision Blizzard, and now there's all these rumors about maybe Sony trying to buy something like Capcom to keep everything from Street Fighter to Monster Hunter only existing on PlayStation platforms. Everybody is competing to make sure they can stay on top. But I also feel like, in general, the gamers are starting to win in a very different way, which is what I want to talk about. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and this is actually spurred by this article that's kind of going all over the internet for the last couple hours, which is about the fact that apparently the PlayStation 5 will outsell the Xbox Series consoles 2-1 this year. Let me start off by just looking at the source itself. This is actually very interesting. I decided to dig into their actual thing. This is basically an analyst website where they hire a bunch of the top tech people to look at different data, different analytics, and see what specifically is happening. And it seems like their data is pretty accurate, but I wanted to go through it, and then I wanted to talk about how this is sort of a win for all of us. Now, getting a little bit ahead of myself, let's take a look at it. PlayStation 5 will outsell the Xbox Series X and S consoles 2-1, data suggests. Ampere Research Director Piers Harding forecasts 18 million console sales for the Sony PlayStation 5 and 9 million sales for the Microsoft systems. However, he does expect the Nintendo Switch to be selling with 21 million units, so they're definitely going to be in the lead. If you're a Nintendo fan, I mean, no matter what, you're always winning. It seems like everybody is always wanting a Nintendo Switch. Before we even go further, I do find it interesting that Nintendo's always kind of positioned themselves as, we're not even part of the console war, but they're always kicking butt in the corner. Like when you consider it, it feels like that friend who gets into weightlifting and they keep just disappearing, and every time they come back, they're like a little bit bigger. That's how Nintendo feels sometimes. Like every time I stop paying attention to Nintendo, they somehow come back bigger and better and with some other crazy exclusive. But going back to the article itself, it looks like the availability of the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series consoles is going to improve slowly over the year, and our expectation is that Sony will outsell Microsoft 2-1. Now, going back to their actual website, they have this thing, it's almost like a mini documentary that explains their data, it explains their findings, and real quickly, I just wanted to show you this thing that they built. This little chart. Now, this is pretty crazy. This is basically showing, these are everything of PlayStation 5 sales. Obviously, the first year, things are kind of low. Like this first year, this was when it first released. So this was 2 months of sales. This was a full year of sales. And now here's the estimation of sales that we're going to be seeing here in 2022. So right off the bat, before we even see any of the other data, let's see here, it's popping up numbers. You can see that before the Switch completely takes over the charts, right here, everybody was trying. Like Microsoft and Sony were pretty close in 2020. They had similar launches. 2021, they doubled their numbers. And now it looks like they're going to double their numbers again. Now, of course, the funny thing is the Nintendo Switch just being a freaking juggernaut. Like if you're ever trying to say which system is the hottest device, of course, you're always going to have to say that the Nintendo Switch wins. Now, personally, I like other systems more. I like my Xbox with Game Pass, and I like my PlayStation 5 because of the exclusives. But, the Nintendo Switch, it's burning up the charts. Going back to the article here, though, what I find interesting about this as we go more into the data is it seems like everything is starting to get a lot more accessible. Like Sony just claimed in last July that the PlayStation 5 has become the fastest selling console ever after it topped 10 million sales globally in just under a month. That's faster than even the PlayStation 4 managed. While supply issues have had negative impacts on sales, more recently the company has said that it remains hopeful for hitting its annual PlayStation 5 shipment of 14.8 million units, a feat that would see its best PlayStation 4 performance during the same stage of the console's life cycle. Now here's what's cool is looking at this data, actually analyzing their words and trying to read between the lines, the reason I consider this to be such a gigantic victory for all of us, like setting aside the console war stuff that's certainly going to be in the comments, I think this is showing the fact that everything is starting to finally increase production. My biggest thing that almost makes me feel bad sometimes is the fact that I keep talking about the biggest and latest and greatest experiences. My favorite thing to do in the world is my game review videos. It's cool to beat a game and just kind of explain the goods and the bads. But sometimes in the comment section, people say, this looks great, but I'll never find a PlayStation 5. Or this seems incredible, but I can't even discover where Xbox Series X's are even being held. The scarcity right now is the biggest detriment to the gaming industry. I've said this in previous video, a lot of my subscribers know this, but I feel like gaming has hit a level of mainstream that has previously never been experienced. Like right now, everybody is a gamer. Everybody I know is a gamer, like my big giant bros that I hang out with at the gym. They're gamers. Everybody now is a gamer. And I think that's part of gaming culture that exists in a way that doesn't exist in other freaking entertainment mediums is trying to make sure you have the best process possible. You want to make sure you have the best graphics, the best controller, the best gameplay, the best access to the best consoles. And right now, it sounds like these supply line issues are finally being cleared up. Now, I want to go back to this article here because here's what's interesting to me. The company has said that it's trying to ship 22.6 million PlayStation 5s during the next fiscal year, which is starting in April 2022. If achieved, it would beat the 24-year-old console sales record of the original PlayStation, which means like right here, this is them signaling to us. Like straight up, this sounds like they can't explicitly say it, but it sounds like basically what they're saying is that everything is being sorted out. Like right here, even Phil Spencer is talking about the fact that it sounds like they are trying to figure out how to reduce this scarcity, how to increase console sales by any means necessary. And to me, this feels like such a giant W. But going to this, when you think about trying to get an Xbox or a PlayStation right now in the market, they're really hard to find. And that's not because of supply is smaller than it's ever been. Supply is actually as big as it's ever been. It's the demand exceeding the supply for all of us. At this point, we've sold more Xboxes than ever before, which is the Xbox Series X and S, than we have any previous version of Xbox. So it's our job to get the supply out there to meet the demand. Right now, everybody is trying to solve the same problem. Everybody is trying to figure out, all right, how many factories do we have to build? How many chips do we have to secure? How many times do we got to hire employees to just shove this all together? Who can make these consoles the fastest to get them in the hands of the gamers? To me, this is not about Xbox versus PlayStation versus Nintendo Switch. It's not about the acquisitions and deals and Game Pass. To me, when I see this data, what I hear is that there's about to be a lot more PlayStation 5s and Xboxes that we can all just purchase, which to me sounds like a great W. What does kind of strike me though is the fact that Microsoft is still attempting to pretty much buy the market. The fact that they have so many different studios and hierarchies and different subdivisions all to make the most games possible just for Game Pass and Game Pass PC. I think it's interesting that Sony is still managing to keep up to this degree. Now, personally, and you guys might disagree, I think this comes down to just the Sony quality. The fact that every exclusive game that's been coming to PlayStation, God of War, like everything that's coming to PlayStation thus far has been such a huge hit, even if it is stuff like Deathloop, which is, third-party game made exclusively. Things like Demon Souls was a very, very big hit. Like everything that's coming exclusively to the PlayStation seems to become a fan favorite and sell really good numbers. Obviously, Spider-Man is such a giant hit. Even things like Ratchet and Clank become huge mainstream successes. I think that right now, PlayStation has managed to establish a brand that's gotten people talking. And hopefully, this increase in production basically gets reflected in more games for all of us. Not just consoles. I want even more games to come out as fast as humanly possible. And more systems and houses, it's going to incentivize these studios to work just a little bit faster. But what do you think about all this? Are you actually believing these numbers? Do you think that these analysts are just smoking a little bit of Gamer Crack. Tell me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a giant thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Oh man, this has been one of the most fun weeks of gaming ever. I love you guys very much, and again, thank you to everybody who's been subscribing. It has been a whirlwind. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.